As a ceasefire is reached in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, concerns remain about how long the ceasefire will actually last before attacks resume.
In Gaza today, they again searched through the rubble for survivors and buried more of their dead. There's been intense pressure to stop the fighting. Today, the White House said it's engaged more than 80 times with the Israelis, the Palestinian Authority and others in the region. And in the last 24 hours, Hamas, the Palestinian group that America regards as a terrorist organization, signaled openness to a ceasefire. With Gaza in a humanitarian crisis, foreign journalists haven't been allowed in, the Israeli authorities saying it's too dangerous.
Joining us to give us more insight on this is Brian E. Muhammad. Greetings, sir.
Greetings, sister. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Let's get right into this. In recent weeks, Israel has dropped a missile, sent in its military troops, and clashed with Palestinians in the occupied West Bank and Gaza. But now there is a ceasefire. How did a ceasefire agreement come about?
Well, first of all, I mean, it was tremendous pressure from around the world, people in the streets, for one, and also, from other nations because of the lopsided bombardment of the occupied forces of Israel versus, rock throwing Palestinians. And so there was pressure to, come to some kind of ceasefire in the situation.
Can you tell us who brokered the ceasefire?
Yes, the countries of Egypt and Qatar. And with Egypt being the main broker of this ceasefire, but they were the ones that did the negotiations to bring this about.
Your final call news article is entitled Middle East Ceasefire Reached, but for how long amid Palestinian suffering? Let me ask several questions that you pose in your article. The first being, how long will a ceasefire exist before attacks resume?
Yeah, the thing is that when we look at the whole history, 73 years of Israeli terrorism of the Palestinian people, and whenever there was some kind of breakage in the fighting over the course of the 73 years, the Israeli government always did something that resumed the fighting, that broke the peace, which was always a fragile peace. And so it's something that when you talk about ceasefires involving, again, the Zionist state of Israel, it can never be trusted.
Right. Now, there has been a lot of damage, families displaced, lots of just physical damage in that region. What do you think this means, the ceasefire? What do you think that means for the masses of Palestinians still suffering?
Well, the Palestinian people have suffered before this latest violence began, and they're suffering after. The Israelis, true to their history, bombed what you call civilian properties. I mean, they bombed residences where people lived. And there were people who were buried in that rubble that became their graveyard. The Palestinian people will continue to suffer until the root problem of this illegal occupation of Palestine ends. How it will end, there's many things, there's different things on the table. But until the root problem ends, the Palestinian people will forever suffer.
Now over to the U.S. Was the international pressure and outrage against Israel a factor in the domestic push for President Joe Biden to stop an already approved sale of weapons to Israel?
Yes, in fact, there's a change, a shift going on in U.S. politics. You have more progressive Democrats, people like Bernie Sanders and others who have a different view of U.S. foreign policy. And so the pressure from around the world to come to some conclusion of this latest violence, it did help, because what as the article said, the deal was made before this started. But the question to the Biden administration is, does it really look good to the rest of the world, for your credibility to be selling arms, to let an arms deal go through while the Israelis are bombing innocent, poor Palestinian people? It just don't look good. And so they were trying to stop it. So yes, the pressure from around the world did help in that argument.
Now, we've supported, I will say, Israel for a long time. How much financial aid and military aid does the U.S. provide to Israel?
Nearly $4 billion. It comes to about $3.8 billion every year. Israel is the number one, the highest recipient of U.S. foreign aid. Now, how does that translate to our listeners and to our watchers? This is your taxpayer money. You work for a living. Your tax dollars go to support a welfare state. This country called Israel. So when you see the bombs dropping on innocent people, almost 300 people died, over 60 children died in this last 10 days alone. That's your money. You're paying for that. That's what this all means.
Protests have occurred outside of Israeli embassies and in various cities in the U.S. and across the world. Have the war crimes against Palestinians and the genocide of Blacks by the U.S. government and its police forced a shift in the consciousness and the unified world against colonialism?
Yeah, in fact, it has. And, those that I've been interviewing over the last couple of weeks dealing with Israel and this whole occupied Palestine issue, they have said as much, that there's a shift in the consciousness of the people. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said that we are living at a time of intensified universal cry for justice. And you see the masses of people rising up against tyranny, rising up against oppression, rising up against their own governments that have been oppressing them and whatnot. And when George Floyd died last year, 1 year ago this week, you saw the level of uprise throughout the world. Well, that was a sign that there's something moving in the people. We believe it's the spirit of Allah moving in the people for this universal change that he's bringing about. And so, yes, there is a change going on. And this is why you see such support and you see camaraderie between people of the earth for each other's struggles.
Now, Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correctly, said a ceasefire is necessary, but will not alone achieve freedom, justice, and equality for all who live under Israel's apartheid government. Does this latest ceasefire end Israel's apartheid occupation of the Palestinians?
No, it doesn't end it at all. In fact, they're still there and they will continue to do what they're doing. They were given a green light under all of the administrations of the U.S. government, especially the last administration of Donald Trump, when he moved the embassy of America into Jerusalem. He recognized Jerusalem as the undivided capital of Israel. When he made that move, he gave a green light to the very issues that brought about this last skirmish that we saw over the last 10 days. And that is not going to change. The root of the problem, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, to solve issues, you must go to the root problem. The root problem was the usurping of Palestinian land by European Zionist Jews at the back end of the world community, then called the League of Nations, but now was the United Nations, when they gave the Palestinian land to these people. And it's been conflict, it's been unrest ever since. So that when they solve that root problem, then you will solve the problem of the Middle East, and you will solve the problem specifically of the Palestinian people and these usurpers of European Zionists who are now committing all atrocities of human rights and crimes against humanity.
Right. Now, very quickly, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan both warned that America will be forced out of the Middle East. Are these latest actions signaling a separation between America and Israel?
Well, it should be a signal, but the Biden administration really didn't want to do Israel like all other administrations. They had a pivot to China in that part of the world. So when this thing hit, that's why it was such a lackluster response at first from the Biden administration to lift its voice at what was going on, because he really did not want to deal with this. And they still don't want it. They don't have the real political will, but they're being forced to deal with it. Yes, America will be forced out of the Middle East. I heard the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan tell one of our Palestinian brothers, who referred to that land as my people's land. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, no, brother, that land do not belong to the Palestinians or the Israelis. That land belongs to the righteous. So Allah is making moves to make this universal change in the world, where he's going to bring about and is bringing about a universal government of peace, where we all can live in peace together. That is the land that belongs to the righteous, and the rightful owners have yet to be there. But our day is coming. But America will be put out. And what does that mean for Israel? It means that Israel is in trouble, because Israel cannot stand on its own. Israel is a welfare state that stands on the nearly $4 billion a year that America gives it and its weapons. Outside of that, Israel has no stand. It has a nuclear weapon, yes, but Israel has no stand. Allah is going to overturn that whole situation, and he's doing it.
He's doing it. Thank you, Brother Brian, as always. And I hope to see you next week for some more on our Global Review Report.
Thank you.
Let's pause for announcements from our sponsors. After the break, David Muhammad will be with us to tell us about his construction training company. We'll be right back.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.
Worldwide, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Download the Final Call Radio app and take us everywhere. On your phone, on your computer, on your tablet, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also log on to finalcall.com and click the Listen Live button, or finalcallradio.com. Final Call Radio, the official voice of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam.
Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel at National Network View. I am Anissa Muhammad with nnvnews.com.
Genesis Construction Training Center is a place where those interested in the construction industry can go to receive information and training for a number of roles within the growing industry.
Genesis Construction Training Center provides guidance and mentorship to those in need of life-changing opportunities while qualifying them to be self-sufficient. Our instructors are experienced industry-certified craft instructors in carpentry, masonry, painting, plumbing, electrical, HVAC, welding, blueprint reading, weatherization, and safety training, including OSHA 10 and OSHA 30.
Joining us to speak more on his company is Brother David Muhammad. Thanks for joining us, sir.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Now, how did you get your start? What schools did you attend to get into the construction business?
Well, my first entry into the industry, I didn't go to school at all initially. It was an opportunity for me when I just decided, to commit my life to righteousness, I should say, or the nation. Prior to that, I was, my life was, I was a part of destruction that, of our communities. So the moment that I made up, my mind that I was coming into, the nation of Islam, it was a concern of mine. What am I going to do? Because I didn't have any skills, any trade, any profession. I didn't have a way to be able to provide for myself. But again, the moment I decided that I was going to change my life, that's when an opportunity came for me to join what is called the Construction Coalitions, which is a community organization that enforces some of the compliance laws from city, state, and federal government that's on the books, but again, that's not necessarily enforced. So the Construction Coalitions are an organization that enforces the laws, meaning it says that if you come in our community and you're working on these construction projects that are funded by our taxpayer dollars, then you have to hire the community. And if you don't hire the community, then you're not working in the community. So that's what the coalitions is. So we would stop jobs. So a friend of mine was telling me about the coalition, that you can get a job through the coalitions. So that's how I got my start. So I went to school later on as being a part of the coalition. I realized that these compliance laws also included, rather than just being a worker, but contracting opportunities, being a contractor. So we were basically employees on the sites. We still didn't, own any of the companies. We suffered still the abuse from those who didn't want us to be on these sites. Mm-hmm. So I said, well, let us, again, coming into the nation at that same time, doing for self, hearing these teachings. So I said, well, we're going to do for self. So I went to school at then NYU. I enrolled in a program, Building Construction Management, to learn the back office aspect of it, because we had those individuals who were in the construction coalitions that were tradesmen. They had the trades, but we didn't have the companies. We didn't run the company. So I said, I'll start a construction company, and I'll call those who had the skilled trades and call us together, and we'll form the construction companies. Then we'll go after the contracts instead of just the jobs.
You're perfect. Now, your services appear to be a one-stop shop for training for roles in the world of construction. Was the reasoning behind this based on the experiences you just shared?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was my experience in the construction industry as initially starting out as a employee or as a worker, a laborer, then as a contractor. There are still so many obstacles that were, still there in front of us that we had to, overcome, right? So even being as an independent contractor, we ran into obstacles that were placed there by, let's say, unions. They have these project labor agreements that prevent those independent contractors from being empowered. So there was also although we got jobs in the construction industry, a lot of those jobs were, like I said, laborers jobs and menial jobs, because they, the industry did not really, the public, industry, construction industry, they still did not want you to learn the skilled trades. So I said, if they won't teach us, and they won't, we'll teach ourselves. So we got certified as a construction training provider. We started, our own managed union and contractors association. So all the organizations that we have was started in order to make us a total and complete independent organization and community.
Wonderful. In addition to what we consider the manual labor side of construction, you mentioned the back office experiences that you had. Your business offers training on construction project management. Can you speak to us a little bit more about that?
Yes, absolutely. The majority of those that I've found in the construction industry, those from our community, even as owners, they are what is called owner operators, meaning if there's an electrician, if he owns his company, he also works, performs the operations, meaning he's in the field doing the electrical work and so on and so forth. What this does is it stunts the development and expansion, because, one person can do but so much. So we wanted to be able to offer, so like myself, again, not being a skilled tradesman, my profession, entry into my profession is construction management. So I was not so much, once we started the company 22 years ago, I was never really in the field. I never worked as a laborer or a tradesman for the company. I was also always management. And so me seeing the need for this, with the other construction company, I said we need to focus on management. So these are some of the services that we offer to construction companies: is project management, which deals with the back office and the management aspect, which is, like I said, we very much need. And that talks about like construction estimating, scheduling, quality assurance, resource control, interpersonal skills and issues and resolutions, and contract documents. So it's all the back office support that makes your company strong and grow and expanding.
Now, your services, both the manual labor portion and the back office portion, do they include exam prep for those roles that require certification?
Absolutely. The curriculum, and I must say that we have adopted is, we're not the providers of the curriculum. We have adopted a curriculum that is very solid, and it's non-discriminatory curriculum. It's NCCER, which stands for National Center for Construction Education and Research, and it's a very, very quality curriculum. So with the curriculum offer, all the training that we offer in each program, whether it's carpentry, masonry, painting, or every module, there is a written exam as well as a performance exam. And then the completion of every level of these programs, there's certification. There's a national certification. And with NCCR, national certification as well. But there's also out here, we're located, based now in Chicago. Our program, apprenticeship program, is registered with the Department of Labor here, in Illinois, and that also produces its credentials as well. So on all aspects, the program, there is written and performance exams, upon completion of every module. So it's a very solid course in our program, very solid. Mm-hmm. And we've experienced, unordinary and extraordinary results.
Now, on the other side of the training are the skilled trainers. How did you go about acquiring these trainers? How can one sign up to be a trainer?
We acquired the trainers through those. In order to be a trainer, let me answer that first. You have to be at least a skilled, in union language, they call it a journeyman, a skilled journeyman. In non-union language, they may call it a skilled tradesman or a skilled technician. Meaning you have to be in the trade probably somewhere around 4 to 5 years. Once you have those skills, you're considered a skilled tradesman, a mechanic, or technician. Then you can go through a 24-hour course by a master trainer, which I am, a master trainer. But going through this 24-hour program, which teaches you how to teach your trade. So the program doesn't teach the actual trade, but it just teaches you how to teach your trade. And so they go through this course for 24 hours. We find our instructors, again, by those who are journeymen or these skilled tradesmen, and those who really look or have a desire for Black empowerment. Right. And sometimes those who have a desire for stewardship, whether it's, within, our community or not, although all our instructors are, from the community. But if you desire and have a desire to teach and see the importance of teaching and passing on what you have to the next generation, then you're qualified to be an instructor. So you'll go through that 24-hour course. And once you pass, again, there's written and performance exams after each one of those courses as well. Then you have obtain your credentials to be a certified instructor.
Right, trainer. Now, Brother David, before we pause for a break from our sponsors, how can our viewers reach you if they're interested in either becoming a trainer or taking on some of the training courses to become certified for a role in the construction industry?
Yes, well, they can reach us. We have a website, www.genesistraining.com. And then on that link, there is a training program that you can get involved in. That particular for the instructors, they will click the link that says instructor certification. I believe that's the link that it says. Or they can, we have info. They can email info@genesistraining.com. Genesis, of course, GENESUS, training.com, or they can call 773-299-9187.
Perfect. Thank you, Brother David, for joining us and letting us know that there is so much you can do both on the manual labor side and the back office side of the construction world. Thank you.
And thank you. The pleasure's mine.
Yes, sir. Let's pause for announcements from our sponsors. Coming up next, we will hear more on Project Seperation from Brother Cardia X. We'll be right back.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps to combat false media. Cash App, NNV News.
Greetings from National Network View. This week's Final Call cover story headline memorializes the late, great DMX. Last week, DMX's life was celebrated at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. Large crowds gathered to honor the legend. They were there to remember a man who wasn't afraid to express his pain with the world. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan spoke via Zoom to the large audience. He delivered words of comfort, wisdom, and guidance to everyone under the sound of his voice. DMX will live on. This FCM volume number 29 edition features the middle page article as a transcript of what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said at the memorial. To read more, subscribe to finalcalldigital.com and tune in to the all-new Final Call Radio. This is the nnvnews.com Final Call cover report.
This is Sister Sajida Muhammad. We are proud to announce that the Sajida House commemorative Elijah coins are finally here. This priceless heirloom, made from recycled copper from the messenger's home, is now available at sajidahouse.com. SUBCRIBE.com.
Please make sure you leave your comments and questions in the comment section below. Follow us on Facebook, National Network View, and make sure to check us out on Twitter as well, National Network View. This is Sergio Gutierrez with National Network View, signing off.
As Black people in America consider separation and creating their own independent government, they are also promoting unity and doing for self.
I will read this to you. We want our people in America whose parents or grandparents were descendants from slaves to be allowed to establish a separate state or territory of their own, either on this continent or elsewhere. We believe that our former slave masters are obligated to provide such land, and that the area must be fertile and minerally rich. We believe that our former slave masters are obligated to maintain and supply our needs in this separate territory for the next 20 to 25 years until we are able to produce and supply our own needs. Since we cannot get along with them in peace and equality.
Joining us to discuss Project Seperation is Brother Cardia X. Greetings, sir.
Hey, walaikum salam, sister. How are you?
I am well.
Great.
What is Project Seperation?
Well, Project Seperation, at its core, is the political ideology of the Nation of Islam. And its number one goal is to develop strategy to achieve point number 4 of what the Muslims want, which is we want our people whose parents or grandparents were descendants of slaves to be allowed to establish their own separate state of territory, a separate state of territory of their own.
Now, it's been stated that Black people in America are separating and creating their own independent government is a pipe dream. Can you speak to those who think that this is just a pipe dream and we will not be able to successfully separate?
Yeah, I absolutely could. I mean, I would encourage those who think that to, if they're calling that separation a pipe dream, try to justify integration, because I think current events have shown and our past history have shown that that's absolutely been a nightmare. And if we do a very surface level analysis of the history of this nation and how this nation was established and came into being, we'll see that separation is not only attainable and achievable, but in certain cases, and I will argue that in our case, it is absolutely the best and only solution. Anyone who, takes a look at the Declaration of Independence, where Thomas Jefferson says that when in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station which the laws of nature and nature's God entitles them. So I think that in and of itself, anyone who has that stance that it's a pipe dream, the argument that Thomas Jefferson gave is a sufficient enough argument.
Now, some of us have a very surface level idea of or understanding of the difference between separation and integration. Can you speak to the goal and provide some points for both of those terms?
Absolutely. So the goal really for separation, as was said in point number 4 of what the Muslims believe, is for us to be allowed to establish a separate state of territory of our own. And essentially what that means is self-governance. And a lot of times when you think of separation, we tend to have a surface level understanding of it as, beautiful Black communities where we own businesses, where we work where we have beautiful homes, where our communities are not ridden by crime and violence, which is good. However, the goal or the mission of Master Fard Muhammad, when he came and raised the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, was for us to establish a nation of our own in which we can govern ourselves. And the Declaration of Independence goes on further and talks about that governments are established to provide certain unalienable rights to the people that they have been given consent by to govern. But whenever those governments don't hold up to their end of the bargain, which is to provide those unalienable rights, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, then it's the duty of the governed to abolish those governments and to set up their own government in which they can secure for themselves those rights. So what we want our people to understand is that integration, the trick of it, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said in point number 9, is just that: it's hypocritical, because the government of the United States of America does not intend to give us those unalienable rights, except it does not conflict with their position, which is a philosophy that white people will dominate all darker peoples of the earth. That's both domestic and internationally. So the duty is on us. The responsibility is on us to reject that ideology of integration, which the Honorable Elijah Muhammad called as hypocritical, and to accept his best and only solution for us.
Now, for integration, some of the things that we've noticed, as we've recently seen, that has not been the best for us. Can you speak to some of the things that you have seen over, I guess, since the civil rights movement, that have been to our detriment in regard to integration?
Absolutely. Number one, I would say from an economic standpoint, which is really the only thing that was integrated upon the passing of the Civil Rights Bill. We've been allowed now to spend our money with Caucasians, which they don't reciprocate. We tend to take our finance, what we build or what we earn working in their corporations and their businesses, and whatever meager means we can take from their society, and invest all of that right back into their society. So the dollar only circulates, I think they said, 6 hours in the Black community, which is far less than any other demographic of people just in this country. So when you think about what we've suffered under integration economically, it completely castrated us as a people from a financial economic base. And then another one, I would say, with me being a police officer, I've been able to see in our societies where we have allowed for others to police us. And by others, I mean white males, to police our communities, and not being men and women and standing up and policing our own communities. We've been dissatisfied with the treatment that we've received from these particular groups that we allow to come in and police us.
Now, we've seen, and every year we have tons of them, town hall forums. What has been the major focus of these town hall forums, and what has been the community response?
Yes, ma'am. The major focus of these town hall forums was for us to present this ideology to our people. We wanted our people to have a chance to take a look at point number 4 of what the Muslims want, and point number 9 of what the Muslims believe, and make a judgment for themselves. And after evaluating that and considering that and taking all the facts into consideration, to make a decision. But we've now since transcended that phase, and the support that we have gotten and the response that we have gotten has been overwhelming, that our people are definitely ready due to what we've seen in the past, and definitely what we've seen in current events. I think that the overwhelming consensus of our people is that the only way we want to attain true freedom is if we as men and women stand up as free men and women and take our own future into our own hands.
Now, Project Seperation, can anyone support it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad has taught us that the fulfillment of the promise to Abraham is the black man and woman in America. So our divine birthright is to assist in this project so that Allah can take us from being a landless, nameless, selfless people in America that the enemy has destroyed, and produce for us or bring into reality a nation where we will be our own nation, and then from there make his presence known to the world. So as black men and women in America, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us, come on, that's what we're looking for, because now the talk of if we should consider this is over. We're now calling for the registered and unregistered members of the Nation of Islam to assist us in actualizing point number 4 in reality.
And finally, how do we get in contact with you or anyone to support Project Seperation?
Yes, ma'am. What you can do is go to www.projectseperation.com. And I would encourage you, the first thing to do is to sign the petition, but then play with the site, go over the site, look at it. We have in the site a section of the 9 ministries where wherever you fit, whatever your profession is, whether it be medical, whether it be law, whether it be construction like our brother Dave, whether it be financial, because a nation encompasses all of those sciences. So we encourage the family that comes to the site, check it out, and then submit what you do. Put in what you do so that we can develop an intellectual resource bank, so that as we move forward with this, we'll be able to draw from that resource bank when this time, as we come to build.
Right. Thank you, Brother Cardia X, for joining us and speaking to us about Project Seperation.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. Thank you for joining us today and tuning into National Network View News. Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel, NNV News. This is Rosalind Parks for National Network View News. Good night.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.